Hey there, car enthusiasts and community champions. You might recognize us as Brookings Auto Mall, your trusted car dealership. And yes, we're in the business of selling cars, but today we're revving up something different. Welcome to BAM, Beyond the Lot. What's driving Brookings? Brookings, South Dakota. It's more than a spot on the map. It's a vibrant community where we're shifting gears, steering away from the ordinary and putting the spotlight on the extraordinary people fueling our town's heart. From K through 12 educators sparking inspiration both inside and outside the classroom, to SDSU acting as a powerhouse for academic excellence and innovation. The synergy extends to the thrill of SDSU athletics, an unwavering commitment of nonprofits and businesses. These are the gears that keep our community in motion. Brookings may appear as just another town to the outside world, but let me tell you, under the hood, it's a well-oiled machine powered by the people. So join us and buckle up as we hit the road, sharing the stories of the incredible individuals propelling Brookings forward. This is BAM, Beyond the Lot, What's Driving Brookings. Here's your host, Brookings Auto Mall sales consultant and Brookings native, Connor Bestie.
Welcome to another episode of BAM Beyond the Lot. Today I am joined with Katie Milbrandt. Katie, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Awesome. Excited to have you here. So you grew up from River Falls, Wisconsin, and you ended up coming to SDSU. Can you kind of give us a little background of what it was like growing up in River Falls, what you're involved with, and kind of what led you to come and choose SDSU?
Yeah, so like you said, I'm from Wisconsin originally. I was a gymnast for almost 8 years, so that took up a bulk of my elementary and middle school years. And then in high school, I actually played junior Olympic volleyball, kind of changed sports. And then for my senior year, I was actually on our cheer team, just our high school cheer team. And I really loved, staying active. And, when I came to college, I wasn't really gonna play sports. So I just, try to keep an active lifestyle by going to the gym. But I was involved in sports very heavily as a kid, but not so much now that I'm in college. So
awesome. And so kind of what your senior year of high school, kind of at what point did you make that decision on what college you were going to go to and what were you looking for? And did you, was it a visit to SDSU that kind of sold you on it? Was it an academic program? What kind of led you to choose and make Brookings home for the next several years?
I actually was dead set on going to Lincoln, University of Nebraska, Lincoln. I have a lot of family there, and so that just was the first place I looked. I toured it quite a few times and actually got accepted there. And during, I think, my last visit there, my mom, she just suggested that I tour another school just to have something to compare it to. And I had known about SDSU because I have an older sister who actually toured here a couple years before me. And I just decided to come to the senior day that they had. And I got to go to a football game and just experience a lot of different things on campus. And I immediately fell in love with Brookings and the SDSU campus. It felt a lot like home to me. And I think it was that day that I was like, yep, I changed my mind. I'm going to come to SDSU instead. So it wasn't really anything, specific to my academics or anything that really drew me here. It was just the community and just the feeling of, being far away from home, but having a place feel like home.
Awesome. And so kind of where are you at kind of currently in your journey at SDSU? What's your major and kind of what are you hoping to do once you finish school at SDSU?
Yeah, so I'm just finished my 4th year. I started as an interior design major, but I changed to architecture during my sophomore year. So that put me a year behind, which is totally fine. But now I'm studying architecture, and then I also picked up a minor in studio arts. I would love to be an architect. That means I have to get my master's as well. So I still have a couple years left of school, but I would also love to be a project manager. I grew up, building things for my room. My dad used to have his own construction company, and now he's a project manager. So it's just something that I've always loved. And now I am working at becoming an architect, which is so exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. So from your first year at SDSU kind of to now, what are things that you have gotten involved with on campus and the community of Brookings and different things like that?
So my first couple years, I was involved in a sorority on campus, which I'm no longer a part of, but I really enjoyed my time while I was in that sorority. I am also a group fitness instructor at the Miller Wellness Center, so I spend a lot of my time working out and helping others work out because it's something that I'm really passionate about. And besides that, and besides, school, I am a local title holder within the Miss America organization. And I actually found out about pageants through a girl that was previously in the sorority that I was in. She came in, presented to us, and I thought it would be a really cool opportunity. So that's where a lot of my involvement comes in, is through my role as Miss Hub City. And I previously was Miss SDSU, and that gave me so many opportunities to get involved on campus. And I'm so grateful that, I got to have that experience because it really just made my love for SDSU grow more and more.
Awesome. So what was that whole process like going through and eventually being crowned Miss SDSU? Could you kind of take us through that journey?
Yeah, so I actually started pageants during my sophomore year. The competition that I first ever competed in was actually Miss SDSU, but I didn't win the title until a whole year later. I competed several times and didn't win. And then I actually took some time off to just, work on myself and just some other things behind the scenes. Came back a couple months later and won the title of Miss SDSU, which was the most surreal feeling ever, just because even before I had the title, I mean, I love SDSU. I love the community. I love the atmosphere. And to be able to represent something that I love so much, it was just the best feeling ever.
So someone that may not be familiar with the organization, could you kind of shed some light on it? And, what does it mean to compete? What does it mean to be a title holder? As well as, outside of the competition, where are those other appearances and things that you're getting involved with?
Yeah. So every title holder or someone or everyone who competes, there's a couple of different phases of competition. So before you're even crowned, you have to compete in several phases or areas of competition. The first one is a private interview. So you sit down with 5 or 6 judges in an interview room, and you give them paperwork, so like a resume, a fact sheet, just things about you that they get to learn beforehand. And then it's kind of like this, where they just ask you questions and you have to answer. And then later on in the day, you get to actually compete on stage, and you'll compete in an on-stage question. So again, answering questions, but actually in front of an audience this time. There's also a fitness portion, which is new to the organization. It used to be swimsuit, but they changed it to fitness, which is a more modern version of swimsuit. Then we have talent, which is pretty unique to the Miss America organization. Not a lot of other organizations have the talent portion, or it's an optional phase that girls can choose to compete in. And then there's evening gown, which is where you get to see like the pretty sparkly dresses, which sometimes that's what people think pageants just are, is just wearing a pretty dress and looking good on stage, but it's actually a lot more than that. So those are just some of the areas of competition that girls will have to go through when they compete to win a title. And outside of that, so after winning a title, you basically are sort of a role model, or in my case, I represented SDSU. So I got involved, or I tried to get involved right away with different organizations on campus that aligned with my mission and my platform, which is all about mental health. I, did a lot of appearances, fun appearances like going to sports games and going to the tailgates before football games, and just tried to get out in the community to have people, find out who I was, because you can only do so much through social media and word of mouth. You just have to get out there and get active in the community, which is what I did. And once I started getting involved with the SDSU mental health and well-being team, that's when I like to say my life blew up overnight. Word of mouth is a very powerful thing. And once I was on that team, I got asked to do a lot of different things, a lot of different public speaking events. That's probably the most of what I do is speak to people, all kinds of people in groups and organizations about mental health. But every every title holder has their own platform. So some girls is about like food insecurity, or a lot of different other things. But I just felt this need that mental health awareness needed to become a bigger thing around our community and around Brookings. And that's just been my main goal ever since.
Awesome. And so with that, what are some of the ways that you've been, starting the conversation and kind of putting mental health kind of in the spotlight and doing that work? Could you kind of go in depth there?
Yeah. So my first like really big opportunity that I got to have was to speak at the Jumpstart Your Wellness event, which was put on by the SDSU Alumni Association. Um, Besides that, I actually partnered with NAMI South Dakota back in January, and I go around the state with them presenting to schools all over, anywhere from elementary up until high school. I do a lot of, again, public speaking and just presenting on mental health. And I think that the thing that makes me different is I share my personal story. I've gone through a lot of different things when it comes to mental health and mental illness, and I actually have depression and anxiety. And I'm very open and honest about that. And I think that's what really makes people connect with me, is that I'm willing and able to share the good, the bad, and the ugly, and just lay it all out just to show people what mental health and mental illness can look like. I think the biggest thing for me is just, again, sharing my story of how I turned struggle into success. And yeah, it's just been the greatest experience.
So the kind of the competing, being a title holder, that kind of allowed you to kind of pick the cause that you cared about to kind of do even more work that with it. And from
Yep.
kind of your own journey with mental health, you saw that as kind of the silver light of like, hey, I know what people are going through. I can be a voice to help them. I can, sympathize and empathize with all these people going through these things. So is that kind of where that inspiration kind of matched up with everything?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've lost loved ones to their battle with mental illness, and I've seen, other people struggle, and I've struggled myself. And, for the longest time, I used to not be able to talk about it. I was so ashamed of, the things that I had been through, but I started to just be honest with myself and with other people. And I immediately saw like this, I don't even know how to describe it, but I saw this need and what sharing my story can do. I've always been very vulnerable and honest, and I think that's just what makes, this platform just that much more impactful, is because, there's not a lot of people out there talking about their struggles with mental health, or, not a lot of people are willing to share their failures. And I'm just someone who, I'm here to share it. Because I just want to reach people and be able to relate to others and help people who may be silently struggling, and just make them feel less alone because someone else is dealing with the same things.
And when you go and do these different talks or presentations, and you're anywhere from elementary school kids to middle school to high school to the alumni association event, like how do you kind of tailor your message based on kind of the age of who you're speaking to, or are there common themes that, doesn't matter the age, these are the things that we talk about? How do you kind of adjust based on who the audience is?
Yeah, so when it's younger kids, like elementary and sometimes even middle school, I usually just read a book. I have a book, it's called It's Okay. And it's all about, feeling your emotions. It's okay to feel sad, or it's okay to feel, discouraged, and just sort of how to handle those feelings. I try and make, when I talk with younger kids, I try and make it really easy to understand, because I don't want to talk about some of those harsh topics because they don't understand the concept just yet. So I try and make it easy to understand for them. And, I read a book. We usually do some coloring sheets that have positive words like believe or love or smile, just so that they know how to handle their feelings. And it's okay to feel your feelings. When it comes to high school students and adults, that's where I get into some of those tougher topics that aren't as easy to talk about, like suicide and self harm and some of those things, just because they're able to understand the concept and understand sort of the severity that mental health and mental illness can get to. So I try and just keep the age into consideration and make it so that they can understand mental health and what it looks like, without getting too intense.
Yeah. So what from doing all this now, from your journey to now sharing and helping impact other people, are there any kind of moments that you've had that have been so impactful and transformational to you, or kind of just like reflecting back on from where you were to where you are now? Like what do you just think of that whole journey you've gone through?
I mean, every single time I speak, there's usually one or two interactions that really stick with me. And I don't even know if I could give you like the best one. But for me, I just feel like it's the most rewarding feeling when someone comes up to me afterwards and they're like, I'm so glad that someone else feels that way. I mean, I just want to be able to connect with people and show them that like they're not alone in their struggles. And when people come up to me and tell me that, they felt that way or they have a loved one who felt that way, that's the most rewarding thing for me, is just to be able to relate to people and reach people and just, again, let them know that they're not alone. So usually just those interactions where people say, what you're doing is making a difference, or, sharing your story is really powerful. Just those small comments. I don't really do this for my own benefit. I do it because I want to, not because I have to. And I just want to be able to make a difference when it comes to mental health. And every interaction has just made it so worth it.
That's awesome. So kind of with you competing in the you have the competition come up. So last year you were Miss South Dakota or Miss SDSU. This year you're
Yes.
Miss Hub City, and that
Yes.
competition is for Miss South Dakota, which is coming up
Hmm.
this upcoming week. Could you kind of maybe, for people that aren't familiar with it, kind of go and explain kind of what you have coming up this upcoming week?
Yeah, it's going to be a really busy week. We move into the dorms on Tuesday. All the delegates have to stay in the dorms, just, so that we can bond during the week before and just spend some time with each other. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, we have rehearsals most of the day. We have some events going on, some sponsored dinners and just events. We get to meet with some of the donors who provide scholarships. And then on Thursday morning, we have our private interview with the judges. And then Thursday night is the first night of preliminary competition. So I'll compete my talent portion that night. They split the girls into two groups. So the first half will do talent their first night, while the other half does on-stage question, fitness, and evening gown. And then we'll flip-flop for Friday night, which is the second night of the preliminary competition. So then I'll do my on-stage question, fitness, and evening gown. And then Saturday will be top 10, so that'll get announced. And then the top 10, whoever makes it in, has to recompete every single phase of competition that night. So you don't really know until your name gets called, and then you have to rush back behind stage, change really quick, and do it all over again. And then after top 10 is over, then they'll announce the top 5. And the top 5 will be asked an onstage question. And then the judges will make their final decision based on the scores, and then we'll crown a new Miss South Dakota.
Awesome. So for people that don't know much about it, myself included, so this competition coming up, how many people are there competing for Miss South Dakota?
So there's 20 Miss delegates or contestants, and then there's 12 teen contestants. So there's a Miss South Dakota, and then there's also a Miss South Dakota's teen. So the age range is 19 to 28 for Miss. And then I'm not entirely sure, I don't want to say the wrong age, but then there's the teens, which is 18 and under.
Okay, awesome. And then so what does the if you win Miss South Dakota, what's kind of next after this one?
Yeah, so actually, whoever gets crowned Miss South Dakota, that same night that you're crowned, you have to start submitting paperwork for Miss America. So sort of goes in a little bit of a line. So you compete for a local title, you win a local title, and that's your ticket to compete at Miss South Dakota. And then if you win Miss South Dakota, then that's your ticket to compete at Miss America. So it doesn't really get any slower. You don't really get to have a break after you win. You kind of just have to keep rolling and spend the next 6 months really preparing for Miss America, while also, attending events and appearances and all those things. So it honestly gets even busier after you win Miss South Dakota.
So I'm sure you're kind of familiar with some of the other girls you'll be competing against. Kind of how you've used your mission of mental health and kind of what you advocate for, and also competing in this. Have you seen what are some of the other ways that other contestants have gotten involved with their communities, kind of similar to what you've done with what you care about with mental health?
Yeah, so the one that comes to mind, her name is Joelle Simpson. Hers is all about preserving nature and working to improve agriculture in South Dakota. So she works with a lot of different organizations like the US, like the South Dakota Wildlife and Fisheries. So you really just have to cater your platform to what you're passionate about. Other girls, another one that comes to mind, her name is Julia Stanek. She's all about food insecurity and just making sure that people in rural areas in South Dakota have access to, their necessary things like, food. And so, every girl's journey within the organization looks different. For me, public speaking is my big thing. I do a lot of talking with all kinds of people, whereas some girls, theirs really focuses on volunteerism. So it just depends on, what your service initiative is, but it all just works so well. And these girls, are amazing. We're all making such a big impact on our communities, and it's just changing South Dakota for the better in so many ways.
Yeah, so it's the people that may think that the evening gown competition, that's all it is, but the Miss America organization, it's not just about that one part of the event.
No.
It's kind of no, you're competing, but you're really impacting communities kind of throughout the whole time leading up to it. So what advice would you give to people if they're wanting to, hey, I've thought about it, but kind of they don't know or they want to get involved, what advice do you have, and things that you'd say about your time and experience in the Miss America organization?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of girls choose to compete because of the scholarships. I mean, that's why I started competing, is because I needed help paying for college. Architecture school is not cheap. And so I will just tell them, you can win scholarships. Even if you don't win a title, a lot of girls still get scholarships for being first runner up or all these other things. So there's so many opportunities to earn scholarships within the organization. So that's a really big draw. But I mean, I just like to tell people that, I've seen the difference just a conversation can make. And there's so many opportunities to make change and create change in our community. So if there's something that they're passionate about, for me, it's mental health. For other girls, it's other things. So I always just say, is there something that you want to improve in our community? Or do you want to make friends? Do you want to make more friends? Because I now have 20 other friends that, I didn't have 2 years ago. So there's so many reasons why, people compete. It's, there's the service aspect, there's the success aspect, which for me, success is just making a difference in my community. But there's so many reasons. I could go on and on about why you should compete, but I think the big ones are just scholarships. I mean, a lot of people have to pay for college on their own or can't take out a loan or don't have that support financially. So I think that's a really big thing for it. But I mean, you just learn so much. I mean, if you were to meet me 2 years ago, you would not have recognized me. Now there's night and day difference between the two. And I feel like I've grown, personally, but also professionally within the organization. And I just, share my experience with them because I feel like I've just grown so much in the last 2 years. And I want that for every other person who wants to compete.
Yeah, and it seems like being from Wisconsin, you've kind of really made a home in the Brookings community at SDSU. What what kind of impact do you feel like the Brookings community has really embraced you back and helped support you and all that? Could you kind of speak on just your experience being in Brookings the last 4 years?
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. Moving here, I didn't know anyone. I think there's maybe 4 or 5 of us that came from my high school, and 2 of them are on the women's soccer team. So I didn't really know anyone. And so, going from not really knowing anyone at first to now, having people know me and I don't really know them, that's a really crazy feeling. I have felt nothing but love and support from the Brookings community. I do a lot of stuff up in Aberdeen just because that's where my new title is sort of based in, is Hub City is the nickname for Aberdeen. So it's just really great to see and sort of look at my transformation over the years. And I honestly wouldn't have been able to do it all if it wasn't for, the support of my community. And it looks like, support from the organizations and places that I speak, but even, with my group fitness classes, I teach silver sneakers, and those people love to know about, my journey. They like to know what I'm doing, what I'm up to. And even just, those people really just make a difference. And that's also, what keeps me going, just because I've seen the difference that, I've made. And again, I don't do it because I have to. I do it because I want to. And I like to see that me sharing my story makes such a big difference. And yeah, I just honestly would not be here and be able to do what I do if it wasn't for the Brookings and SDSU community.
Awesome. Well, it was great talking to you. I'm glad we were
Yeah.
finally able to fit in the interview, and I know you have
Yes.
one more weekend to kind of relax, and then next week's a busy week for you. So
Yeah.
want to wish you the best of luck in the upcoming competition, and maybe we'll have to do another one soon when maybe you get crowned as Miss South Dakota.
Fingers crossed. I definitely would love that. So thank you for having me. It's been great. And I'm so glad we finally got to have this podcast as well, because it's exciting, and I honestly wish I could interview you because you're such a cool guy, and literally, like, let's do this again, but have me interview you.
Okay, that would be perfect. My coworkers are gonna think that I definitely paid you to say that at the end, but I
I
promise I
promise I
did.
didn't.
Awesome.
No.